Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday's Thought. Last week, I had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Jassett Crooks. She is a registered psychotherapist, as we talked about, and we also interviewed Claudine Wilson, attorney at law, and we were discussing their career paths, their faith journey on that wonderful day of March 8th, which was International Women's Day. Now, the conversation was so intense, so great that we decided to keep the camera rolling. So you are about to view our conversation that took place thereafter. Gets a little intense, gets a little personal, but I think it will help you in your path to success, be it on your faith journey, your career journey, or just being a wonderful woman of God. God bless you as you go forward in Tuesday's Afterthought.
So one of the things I forgot to say, or time was going by, was that in regard to breaking the bias is for young ladies to not feel afraid to connect with more seasoned older women. For, in the church, if go to the mother and sit and have a conversation. Don't feel that I'm a young person, I know it all, and they don't know it. But connect, and you can learn so much. And not just in the church, right? But also in any context. Yeah. I remember, Michael, as you remember in church, we were the only young people back then, right? Yeah. Pretty much Michael, myself, and Andrew and Christopher and Andrew, right? Yeah. And we used to, I used to hang out with the older folks. I mean, it was not by choice, but it was good because we were the only young people, like Mother Jennings and Sister Golson and those ladies from way back when. And you sit and you listen to them and you hear things. Or when we go to Toronto, I was always with the older people just soaking up information, right? Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. Don't cheat yourself out of learning something beautiful by saying, no, I'm young, they're old, because that's a bias as well, right? Sometimes we look at bias as only with perhaps some race, but no, it could be this ageism, I guess, right? They're older, they're younger, they won't see it my way. Go sit and reason with an older person. And you could be amazed what you could take away from that and learn from that. And even learn to love older folks or seasoned folks.
Claudine, I can hear someone responding to Jassett right now, though, and saying, well, older people are judgmental. Older people don't understand. Older people want to keep me confined in, their way of doing things. What do you say to that?
You said older people don't understand. You know what I pick up on that? Information. There's an information deficit. There's an information gap. And that flows both ways. They may not understand the present context of what you're dealing with, but I guarantee you, youth, they understand. They've been young. Exactly. So there's something to take. There's something to pull from those generic experiences that are they're relevant to. Aside from the era, if I can say that, aside from the generation, they're consistent by virtue of it being youth. And so to Jassette's point, I love that. You can draw from, we can pull from, and to be honest, I think it can flow both ways.
Thank you.
I love, I'm going to say it, not that I'm old or anything. Let's just get that straight.
1970s.
I love hanging out with the young people.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm still young, and but that aside though, like there is so much. There's mutual benefit, for lack of a better word. There's so much that we can each feed into one another, and so we need to sort of decide to do something about that deficit, that information gap.
You're talking, you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing that time machine with the sand at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
The sand at the top is
an hourglass.
An hourglass.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at an hourglass. Yeah. The bottom of the hourglass is you're seasoned,
That
you're
seasoned
old,
mom.
that
Yes,
old
yes,
age.
yes.
Been through.
Yes.
You've been through.
You sift, you drip, you drip,
Yep.
and eventually
Yes.
your youth is
Nothing
gone.
left. Say it. Exactly.
As you spoke, that's what I
Right.
saw.
And imagine what you can take from the experience of that one who's now heavier at the bottom of the glass.
Yes.
When you're still sort of at the top of yours. Imagine what you can draw from them if we're only willing to listen, to glean from, to learn. I just wanted to say too, it really is applicable to any context.
Yes.
I think you kind of touched on that. Even outside the walls of the church, there's learning, there's, as I said, we talked about mentorship earlier. That mentorship piece is so key if only we're willing to bridge the gap.
I'm going to throw this question on the table for either one of you. Did you feel, thank you, Lord, did you feel any resistance from the church or from family about you as a woman pursuing higher education? In fact, I want to ask both of you that question. I'm going to keep talking to give you a chance to think about it.
Oh no, I got it.
Did
I got it too.
Did you feel any resistance about you as a young lady pursuing this? And I know the next question I'm going to ask, and you could probably think about it too. You probably know where I'm going to go next. But just let me throw that at your table. Did you feel resistance?
None whatsoever.
Wow.
That's
None.
good.
I did not feel any resistance from my family.
Really?
I for the higher learning, no. And I've always wanted to go to the top of whatever I was going to pursue from the get-go. But no, there was no resistance from my family. It was okay, Jassett wants to do, and I got the support. So I have to say that. I did get and I don't think it was resistance to higher education, but it was resistance as to, oh, you're going into that?
Right.
I did get that.
I
did get that in the church. I did get that from the church. You're going into that. But I'm sure, and just to probably steal part of Claudine's answer, if I was going to be a lawyer, I think in the church you get you're going to be a lawyer, right? But being in psychology,
A shrink.
No, I didn't get any resistance, and I had lots of support from family and lots of support from my pastor. So it was.
Claudine, over to you.
Much of the same in terms of the support from family. I had nothing but support. My parents were always in my corner. And thinking about it now, there's really not much that I decided that I was going to do, be it where I would go to school, the fact that I would study away from home, the career path that I got resistance to. Even before that, activities that I wanted to do, that might have been because maybe, as the younger child, they're like, do what you want. We're done.
Too, so there you go.
But there was
That wasn't my experience in life, ladies and
You're
gentlemen.
not the youngest child.
This is it. Oh, those firstborn. But so that I think assisted my journey 1,000, 1,000,000%. There is nothing that my parents would not have done, right, to further my education along. My dad always said, I didn't go to school, you go to school. He didn't want me to work part-time. I didn't work part-time during most of my education. I'll work, you go to school. And so that was never a hindrance. Interestingly enough, in terms of the choice of, a legal profession, it wasn't, and of course when we say the word church, we're using that very loosely.
Right. We don't let's clarify that,
Sure,
please.
go ahead.
We're not referring to a specific local assembly
At
or
all.
No.
local parish.
Correct.
We're referring to the
Maybe
to-
the mindset.
the
A bit of a
mindset.
Yeah, because you're
mindset.
thinking a lawyer might lie.
Right.
So
I
let
think
me,
it's along that line.
I
Right,
think
so-
you think that. Because she didn't say that. You said that.
we're out there twisting up people's minds. But no, in terms of what would represent the church, I remember distinctly, I hadn't even started law school yet. I was in my last year of undergrad, and somebody who was very well learned, like a biblical scholar from a biblical scholarship perspective, very elite, if we can use that, said, "Oh, you're going to law school? You're considering to be a lawyer? Don't you think you might want to reconsider that, considering the reference to lawyers in the scriptures?" And I was shocked. I couldn't have been more than 19 years old. So what did I know? I knew that I I had a goal, which was law school, a law degree, and a legal profession. But it definitely did, it caused me to pause. Now, it didn't stop the journey in any way. I did reflect. I thought about it. But, to your point, there are those times, and who knows, we're 2022 now. Maybe it's historical, gone are those days. I don't know. But there are those settings, there are those positions, there are those pursuits that sometimes really aren't reflected on in a necessarily positive way. And it could just be because of the understanding or the, misunderstanding, if I can say that, about what it is that we're talking about.
Let's be real. I'm gonna talk about something that I'm sure is now in the minds of a few people that are watching. This is being broadcast after International Women's Day, but it is International Women's Day at the time of this recording. And the theme that the world has put out there for International Women's Day, I think it's a UN actually, has put out is break the bias. We are coming from a mindset that a young lady is to go to school for a short amount of time, get married, and start a family.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Let's break the bias. Let's talk about that.
Go.
Well, I would say yes. Back then, that's it. You hear the question, when are you getting married?
Just that, I wouldn't even say
You'd
back
say
then.
right now?
I would say it's still
Okay.
an unspoken understanding.
Yeah,
a
actually,
woman
that's
is
true.
to
That's true.
a woman is to go to school. We've now evolved, and I don't mean to take away time from you
go
answering your
ahead.
question, but just to make it clear,
It's happening.
it is understood a woman is to pursue an education to a point,
Yes.
but she is to get married and to start a family, especially within the, if I can say, within
productive years.
hang on, especially within the Black culture,
Yeah,
and
that's where you're
further taking it in the church culture. For the Bible said,
What did it say?
Come on now. What did
a
it
woman
say?
is to be a family is to be fruitful and multiply. Talk about that mindset and your journey. Claudine, do the same.
My mindset has never been, even though that's something that is believed and maybe perpetrated or in the circle, or was never ever my belief, because like I said, you already know me, I'm very pro.
Get it, girl.
Yes, right. So that was never ever, even though that might have been, it was never a thing where like, oh yes, I want to get married and settle down and have kids. It was just never, that was, I want my education and that's what I want. So it didn't really bother me in the sense, even if someone said, hey, when are you going to settle down and da-da-da-da, it was like, no, I want my education. And the thing about it too is a lot of women who pursue their education might put that off till a later date, right? And it's happening a lot, and you can do both. Don't let anyone tell you can't have a good career and a family, because there are many women out there doing it. But it just never bothered me. Even if you were to say something about it, my education that was my thing. My goal was my education. It wasn't to go and get my undergrad and then make sure I'm married and have kids. It just wasn't me, and maybe I'm unusual in that way, but yeah.
Thank you.
Michael, that I would agree with in the sense that is the expectation. And quite frankly, that was my expectation. But that's not my story. And I hold very true and consistent to the notion that God is really the author of my life story.
There you go.
He penned the pages already. The beginning, middle, and ending is already written. All I'm doing is living out the story. And it's amazing how to, the bench me up by this check, by this age, by that. Did it, because that's what we are cultured to do. Like we're supposed to do that. It's responsible to do that. And I did that. But there comes a point in time, and I have to give thanks. I'm grateful for my journey, where when you can find contentment in yourself, when you love the path that you're on because you know it's the path that he picked, and there is no greater best-selling author, if I can break it down like that, than the Lord himself. Like, there's a peace that comes with that. There's a contentment that I use that word because I think that's such an important word, regardless of where we find ourselves. Because there are a lot of women who exactly followed that prescription, right? But unfortunately are not content.
There you go.
And to me, there is no greater treasure than my contentment, my peace. I can't complain. I'm happy being me, living my life like it's golden, right? We're going to quote all the songs, but there is a blessedness in sticking to the path that he picked.
Amen.
And as long as you know the path, you're content in the path, there's not much else I can say. Do you get when are you going to settle down? What you waiting on? And all these things. Of course you get them and you have to handle them with a grain of salt. Nod and smile and right. But outside of that,
when are you gonna have kids?
Right.
Not everyone was made to have kids. And
where's the boy, brother Mike? Where's the boy?
Right? Yeah. So again, like just coming full circle, this has been the expectation laid down, but you have to know what.
Claudine, if you could, can you speak to that 24, 26, 27-year-old? They're almost done school.
I was done at 25. Law degree and everything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's
taking some people a bit longer now.
Fair.
They're almost done. They're anxious.
Yeah.
There's no. Let's have a real conversation.
Yeah.
There's no relationship prospects in sight.
Mm-hmm.
She loves the Lord. She wants to be what the Lord calls. She wants to be saved.
Yeah.
Right? Speak to that girl.
Live. Just live. Where you find yourself at the 24 to 26, whatever age you are, still young, at an age and stage where you're now just actually getting ready to enter a different phase of your life because you've put in the time. Right. You burned the midnight oil. You've done all you needed to do. You successfully earned it. Now you get to live while you, and it's so cliche, I kind of find, while you're waiting.
Live through the whole, you keep living.
Can I just say this? Like, what are you waiting for?
Exactly.
What is to happen? The relationship will come when the relationship is to come. But get yourself together. Make sure you are whole. Make sure you are living. Make sure you are actually learning about yourself. Do you know like what your favorite restaurant is or what your favorite type of meal is? Have you been somewhere that you could reflect back and say, that was a beautiful country and I loved it because, right? Have you set aspirational goals for yourself from a financial perspective? Do you have financial literacy? Are you preparing yourself such that, yes, the relationship comes and this is what I envision for my family and so on, and this is how we're going to get there. These are the tools that I know we'll need to be equipped with as a couple and subsequently as a family. Or am I preparing myself such that if I will remain a single income earner, this is how I'm going to make sure I'm going to continue to be able to A, sustain myself, B, plan for that rainy day, and or C, be able to enjoy myself thereafter. Because that's another thing. Please, and maybe this is just a personal thing, I will not be working till I'm 65. Can I get an amen? Drop it in the comments. Will not be working till 65. A couple of reasons. One of those reasons being my parents came before me and did that hard labor. They worked hard so that I wouldn't have to work quite as hard. So I think I owe it to myself, but to part of the legacy of their hard work to make sure that I'm not doing it till 65. So that said, can I set myself in a position so that I don't have to, right? And I can be self-sufficient and actually not just making it by, right? You want to be comfortable, whatever comfortable is for you.
I want to say, unlike Claudine, I want to work till I'm 85. But
See?
well, I don't know if okay, we won't go there. We know what I was going to say next. But anyways, I would like to work until beyond
Yeah.
six, but my own private practice where it's just something to keep me going.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, just something to keep me going. Nothing that's a 9 to 5 or even an everyday, but I'll probably do a little, maybe see 3 clients for the week or something just to keep me going. So, in that regard, I will do that.
Yeah.
And I love how Sister Claudine says, live. Even when we're going to school, we stop living. It's like we put everything on hold, and it's like, I'll wait till I'm done. Some of us put everything, everything on hold.
Even our relationship with Christ.
Even your relationship with Christ, you put everything on hold. But live today.
Yeah.
I always say to people, part of your money needs to go towards you having a good time.
Sure.
Like, if you're gonna wait until you're
And your
retired
tithe.
to have
Pay
a
your
good time,
tithe now.
you gotta pay your tithe.
With that OSAP money.
You gotta pay with the OSAP money.
Give your time.
Give. You can't lose if you give to God. But honestly, live now. There's no need to put off living your life now just because you don't have a husband.
spouse.
You don't have a husband. That doesn't mean you're not whole. This idea, if I need someone else to make me whole, you only need one man to make you whole. And that's Jesus. And if you have Jesus, you are whole.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. I think we have wonderfully encapsulated International Women's Day, breaking the bias. One last question, Jassett. Speak to that woman who is juggling a professional career. She's has a marriage, and she's trying to be a good wife, whatever that means in her marriage. She has activities she does outside the home and whatnot. She starts to feel overwhelmed. She feels stressed out. Her husband's complaining that you're not paying enough attention to him. So speak to that woman.
Yeah.
What would you say to that woman?
And I just had a client who came up with that's the same issue that's going on. And what I would say is that you're just one person and you can only do so much. Okay. And I know sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm not there enough for my family. But as I was saying to this individual, the time that we're living in now, women and men are working. You have to both work to be able to sustain the family, right? And I would say, remember that you have to take care of yourself. If you don't take any time out for yourself and you're just totally run down, then you can't take care of the household, the family, the husband, the way you should.
Any closing thoughts, Claudine, before we say goodbye to our Tuesday Thought audience afterthought, or Tuesday afterthought? Is that what we're going to call this?
Yeah, I want to talk about regret. So I was asked whether or not I had any regrets, just in reflecting, like from a professional perspective, if I had any regrets. And I thought it was an interesting question because while I would say I definitely had things that I wish I had done differently, perhaps, I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as a regret. I more like to think about it as a reflect. I rather think back on that thing, figure out, well, was it purposeful? Did I learn anything? Why did I do that? Or why did I not do that? How could I have done it differently? And so it's less, because to me, regret seems like it will bring you into a negative space, a bit of a negative space, whereas reflecting is kind of more constructive in its output or in its outcome. So I'm encouraged. My encouragement, I guess, would be, try to live in such a way where you don't have regret. And even if there's going to be things that you perhaps think, gosh, I should have done that a different way. I'll drop this one thing and then I'll hand over the mic. My dad always says, and I probably have shared this with you guys, that there are 2 words, and I'm just paraphrasing. There's 2 words in the English language that when used together have completely no value. Those words are if only. And so even if we find ourselves in a situation where you're looking back at your just life in general, your career trajectory, family, anything, like your personal development, try your best not to see it as an if-only proposition, and ask yourself, what can I take from that? What was that designed for? What was the lesson? Where am I now? Because goodness, by God's grace, I'm hopefully further ahead than I was at that point when I made the decision today. And if not, again, it's really just kind of a teachable moment, a learning moment. So that's what I'd say in terms of regret.
Thank you once again for this another evening spent with us as we continue our conversation from International Women's Day on March 8th. We hope that you've been edified, you've been encouraged. Please subscribe to Rapha Windsor. We have wonderful content that comes on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, and Sunday mornings. And if you're in the Windsor, Essex County area, why don't you come pay us a visit? We're a great group of people and would love to meet with you, love on you, and give Jesus to you. God bless you. Have a wonderful Tuesday evening.